more now on Japan. Radiation is hampering efforts to cool crippled nuclear reactors. The worst atomic accident since Chernobyl is entering its third week. Japanese government is saying soil near the Fukushima plant will be tested for plutonium contamination. For more on the business environment in Tokyo right now, we bring in Curtis Freeze. He has been investing in Japan for 2 decades. He is the founder and chairman of Prospect Asset Management, 100% invested in Japan, $280 million under management. Curtis's fund last year up 210%. Curtis, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Before we talk about the business climate, I want to ask you about life in Tokyo. I know your wife, your children are in the Philippines. Other business people have sent their families to Osaka. When do you think it's going to be safe to bring your family back to Tokyo?
Well, I personally think it's safe now, but of course my wife and I don't always agree. She's very nervous, and I think what she's looking for is confirmation from some of her friends and the schools that our sons go to. The schools are reopening. One school opened today. My other son's school opens tomorrow. And so we're looking to interact with some of the other parents and, of course, with the school and see how things are going. Right now, they're booked to come back on the 1st, on Friday, but we're going to wait and see how things develop between now and then.
So, Curtis, it sounds like your peer group is more important for you and your wife's decision-making than the Japanese government, for example.
Well, I think so. We're getting information from lots of different sources, and there are independent monitors, so I don't think we have to just go by what TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power, says. There are other sources of information which confirm that in Tokyo it's safe. I have to say the most unnerving experience in Tokyo is all the aftershocks. So much more than the nuclear concern is we were woken up this morning, I guess it was around 7:30. Most of Tokyo experienced a big aftershock. There's been 45 reasonably significant aftershocks since the quake, big enough to make you think twice and look up.
Yeah, still scary.
And so that's the last way people in Tokyo want to be woken up, yeah?
I'm sure. Curtis, we can't talk to you without talking about the business community. I mean, what is the tone like? How is liquidity?
Well, the market's been trading. Actually, today was a very quiet day. It was surprisingly quiet. The market, the topics did end up on the day with very little news. The last few weeks, of course, since the quake, it's been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But today was quiet. I think it was a chance for people to take stock. There wasn't a lot of violent moves in the market aside from Tokyo Electric Power.
We know in the past you've been successful. I mean, we talked about your fund's 210% return last year. A lot of those, you said, were contrarian calls. Are you making calls that you consider contrarian now? That is to say, putting money back in Japan?
Yes, I did. As I mentioned on a previous broadcast, we put some money in on the bottom the Tuesday after the quake, and again the Wednesday morning we were investing. We went pretty much fully invested at that point, and surprisingly the fund that you mentioned is actually up this month to date. So it's not up a lot, but at least it's positive for the month.
Is there anything that you've seen, Curtis, like this before from the point of view of a fund manager? I mean, does this compare to the post-Lehman crisis, for example?
Well, in a sense it does. The effect on GDP could be similar. In February, after the Lehman shock, GDP in Japan was down almost 8%. This time it's expected to be down almost 9%. And so it is a similar shock to the psychology of investing. I think people, the direct impact on most companies was mostly the power interruption and interruption of logistics, getting supplies in and out. But the psychological damage is much greater. So I think we'll have 1 quarter of a deep dip in the GDP and then followed by a strong rebound.
Curtis, we know you're also the CEO of Growbells. This is a real estate developer. I mean, are you seeing pricing pressure? What about inventory concerns?
Well, there's no inventory concerns. We're very fortunate. We're just finishing our fiscal year. Our year end is the end of March. And as of this end of March, we only have 14 units of completed condos. So that's very small. That's less than 2 weeks volume of sales. So we're contracting for units that'll be completed in the future. And of the units completed in the next 12 months, we've already contracted half of them. So in a sense, we have a cushion. We've seen no cancellations because of the quake. If anything, the strong sense in the real estate market is everyone wants to be moving into a newer building. Newer construction is much safer. And so 50% of the buildings in Japan are more than 30 years old, and those people want to move into newer buildings.
Curtis, we thank you so much for the time and for your insight. Thank you very much. Curtis Freeze joining us there from Tokyo.